Money is a topic that we all think about, but we often see it in a very narrow way. We learn about it in school like it is a math problem. We are taught about interest rates, economic charts, and financial formulas. These things are important, but they only tell a small part of the story. The real world of money is not a spreadsheet. It is a messy, emotional, and very human place. How we manage our money has less to do with how smart we are and more to do with how we behave. Your feelings, your past experiences, and your unique view of the world play a much bigger role than any textbook formula ever could. Think about it this way. A brilliant mathematician who cannot control their greed can end up in financial ruin. On the other hand, a person with no formal financial education can become very wealthy by practicing simple habits. They might not know complex theories, but they understand the importance of patience and avoiding big mistakes. This shows us that financial success is not a hard science. It is a soft skill, where how you act is more important than what you know. We often make financial decisions at the dinner table or in a meeting room, not with a calculator in hand. These decisions are guided by our pride, our fears, our optimism, and our personal history. This is what we call the psychology of money. It is the study of how our minds work when we deal with financial matters. It is about understanding that we are not always rational beings. We are emotional, and our emotions often lead us to make choices that seem strange to others, but make perfect sense to us at the moment. For example, why do some people buy lottery tickets when the odds of winning are so incredibly low? It is not because they are bad at math. It is because the dream of a life-changing win feels more valuable than the small cost of the ticket. It is an emotional purchase, not a logical one. Throughout this exploration, we will look at the different ways our minds influence our financial lives. We will see that being good with money is not about having a high income or a fancy degree. It is about developing good habits, understanding your own behavior, and learning to be patient. We will explore simple but powerful ideas that can help you build a better relationship with your money. The goal is not just to become richer, but to gain a sense of control and freedom. This journey will show you that the most important financial tool you have is not your wallet, but your mind. Every person in the world has a unique experience with money, and this experience shapes everything they believe about it. Nobody is crazy. We all just make decisions based on what we have seen and lived through. A person who grew up during a time of great economic struggle, like the Great Depression, will view risk and saving very differently from someone who grew up during a period of great prosperity. Their personal history forms a mental model of how the world works, and they use that model to make financial choices. This is why financial advice that seems obvious to one person can seem completely foolish to another. Imagine two people. One grew up in a family where money was always tight. They watched their parents worry about paying bills every single month. This person might grow up to be extremely careful with their money, saving every penny and avoiding debt at all costs. They might be afraid to invest in the stock market because they see it as a form of gambling. To them, financial security means having a large pile of cash saved up. Their experience taught them that the world is uncertain and that you need to be prepared for the worst. Their behavior is a direct result of the financial lessons they learned in their youth. Now, consider another person who grew up in a wealthy family. Their parents were successful entrepreneurs who took big risks and saw them pay off. This person might grow up with a very different view of money. They might see debt as a tool to build wealth and view the stock market as a place of great opportunity. They are more comfortable with risk because their personal history showed them that taking chances can lead to great rewards. Neither of these people is right or wrong. They are both simply products of their own unique upbringing and the lessons that life has taught them along the way. This understanding is crucial because it helps us have more empathy for others and for ourselves. When you see someone making a financial decision you do not understand, try to imagine what experiences might have led them to that choice. And when you think about your own money habits, recognize that they are deeply connected to your past. You are not just a spreadsheet of income and expenses. You are a collection of stories, memories, and emotions. Acknowledging this is the first step toward making more conscious and deliberate decisions about your financial future, rather than just reacting based on old programming. In a world that always tells us to want more, one of the most powerful financial skills is knowing when you have enough. There is a dangerous trap in constantly moving the goalposts of success. You get a bigger house, but then you see an even bigger one. You buy a nicer car, but then a newer model comes out. This never-ending cycle of wanting more can lead to taking unnecessary risks. People who have plenty of money can lose it all because they become greedy. They cannot resist the temptation of just a little more, and that desire can push them to make reckless decisions that they do not need to make. Think about a successful investor who has already built a fortune large enough to provide for their family for generations. They have everything they could ever need: a beautiful home, financial security, and the freedom to do what they love. Yet, they see an opportunity to double their wealth by taking a huge, concentrated risk. A logical person might ask why. Why risk something you have and need for something you do not have and do not need? The answer often lies in social comparison. They see their peers getting even richer and they feel a sense of falling behind. The feeling of enough is replaced by the poison of envy. The skill of being satisfied is a form of wealth that cannot be measured in dollars. It is the ability to step off the treadmill of endless ambition. This does not mean you should not have goals or strive to improve your life. It means that your happiness should not be tied to constantly wanting more than what you have. The happiest people are often not the richest, but those who have a strong sense of what is sufficient for them. They find joy in their freedom and security, rather than in the pursuit of ever greater status and possessions. This mindset protects them from the kind of greed that destroys fortunes. So how do you cultivate this sense of enough? It starts by defining your own version of success. Do not let society or social media define it for you. What do you truly value? Is it time with your family, the freedom to pursue a hobby, the ability to help others? Once you understand what truly matters, you can build your financial life around those values. This helps you avoid the trap of social comparison. You stop looking at what others have and focus on whether you have enough to live the life that you want. That is true financial freedom. When we look at financial success, it is very easy to focus only on the actions people took. We credit brilliant investors for their smart decisions and hard-working entrepreneurs for their tireless effort. But this is only half the picture. Every outcome in life is guided by forces other than individual effort. Two of the most powerful of these forces are luck and risk. They are two sides of the same coin. Luck is the idea that some things happen that help you succeed, things that are completely outside of your control. Risk is the idea that some things can happen that cause you to fail, which are also outside of your control. Consider the story of Bill Gates. He was undoubtedly brilliant and hardworking, but he also had a tremendous amount of luck. He went to one of the only high schools in the world at that time that had a computer. This gave him a huge head start in programming that very few others had. If he had been born in a different place or at a different time, the story of Microsoft might have been very different. This does not take away from his incredible achievements. It simply reminds us that success is never just about individual skill. Random chance and fortunate circumstances play a significant role that we often overlook. On the other side of the coin is risk. Just as luck can lead to unexpected success, risk can lead to unexpected failure. You can do everything right, save diligently, invest wisely, and make smart career choices, and still be hit by a negative event that you could not have predicted. A sudden illness, an economic recession, or a technological change that makes your job obsolete are all examples of risk. These events can derail even the best-laid financial plans. Because we cannot see these things coming, it is important to build a margin of safety into our financial lives, which we will discuss later. Recognizing the roles of luck and risk should make us more humble and forgiving. When we succeed, we should acknowledge that luck likely played a part. This helps us avoid becoming overconfident and assuming that we can never fail. And when we see others fail, we should remember that they might not have made poor choices. They might have just been on the receiving end of bad luck or unforeseen risk. This perspective is powerful. It encourages us to focus less on individual success stories and more on broad patterns. Instead of trying to be the next Warren Buffett, it is often better to learn the general principles of saving and patience that work for everyone, regardless of luck. So, many people focus all their energy on the first part of the financial journey, getting wealthy. This part often involves taking risks, being optimistic, and honestly, working very hard to build an income or an investment portfolio. It is the exciting part of the story, the part that movies are made about. We celebrate the bold entrepreneur who takes a big chance, or the savvy investor who finds the next big thing. Getting wealthy requires a certain mindset, a willingness to put yourself out there and seize opportunities. It is about a combination of skill, hard work, and, as we have seen, a little bit of luck. However, there is a second part of the journey that is far more important, but, gets much less attention: staying wealthy. This actually requires a completely different set of skills and a completely different mindset. While getting wealthy often involves taking risks, staying wealthy involves avoiding them. It is about survival. The primary goal really shifts from growth to preservation. Staying wealthy requires humility and the recognition that the same things that helped you get rich can also be the things that make you poor. Overconfidence, which might have helped you take a necessary risk early on, can lead to recklessness later. The key to staying wealthy is developing a healthy sense of paranoia. This does not mean living in constant fear, but rather understanding that what you have built can be taken away just as quickly as it was made. It is about protecting your assets from the inevitable downturns and unexpected events that life will throw at you. This means, avoiding large amounts of debt, diversifying your investments so you are not wiped out by a single bad outcome, and having a margin of safety. It is less about hitting home runs and more about avoiding striking out. The person who stays wealthy for a long time is the one who survives long enough for compounding to work its magic. Think of it like this: getting wealthy is like sprinting. It is fast, intense, and requires a burst of energy. Staying wealthy is like running a marathon. It is slow, steady, and requires endurance and discipline. You do not win a marathon by sprinting at the start. You win by keeping a consistent pace and not burning out. In finance, this means avoiding the temptation to chase quick, high returns and instead focusing on a strategy that you can stick with for decades. The goal is not just to reach the finish line, but to still be standing when you get there. We often think that building wealth is all about your income or your investment returns. People chase higher salaries and search for the hottest stocks, believing that these are the keys to a rich life. While both are important, there is a much more reliable and controllable factor that often gets overlooked: your savings rate. Your savings rate is simply the difference between what you earn and what you spend. It is the portion of your income that you set aside for the future. And unlike your investment returns or your next promotion, your savings rate is something you have direct control over, starting today. The beauty of a high savings rate is that it works regardless of what is happening in the world. You do not need the economy to be booming or the stock market to be soaring. By simply spending less than you make, you are building wealth. This might sound too simple, but its power is profound. A high savings rate gives you a margin of safety. It creates a cushion that protects you from life's inevitable surprises, like losing your job or facing an unexpected medical bill. When you have savings, a financial emergency is an inconvenience, not a disaster that can ruin your life. More importantly, saving money gives you something that is more valuable than any possession: freedom and control over your time. When you have enough savings, you are no longer chained to a job you dislike just to pay the bills. You have options. You can afford to wait for a better job opportunity. You can take time off to be with your family or pursue a passion. You can decide to change careers or start your own business. Money's greatest intrinsic value is its ability to give you control over your life. Every dollar you save is like buying a small piece of your future freedom. Building a high savings rate is less about cutting every small expense and more about managing the big ones. Your lifestyle expectations play a huge role. If you can learn to be happy with less, you can save a significant portion of your income without feeling deprived. The goal is not to live a life of painful frugality, but to avoid lifestyle creep. the tendency to increase your spending every time your income goes up. By keeping your lifestyle consistent even as you earn more, your savings rate can grow dramatically. This simple habit is one of the most powerful wealth-building tools available to anyone at any income level. If there is one concept in finance that feels like magic, it is compounding. Albert Einstein supposedly called it the eighth wonder of the world. Compounding is simply the process of your money earning money, and then that new money earning even more money. It is a snowball effect. A small snowball at the top of a hill might not look like much, but as it rolls down, it picks up more snow and gets bigger and bigger at an accelerating rate. Your investments work the same way. The returns you earn in the first year start earning their own returns in the second year, and so on. The key ingredient for compounding to work its magic is time. It is not about earning the highest returns. It is about earning pretty good returns that you can sustain for the longest possible period. This is where patience becomes a financial superpower. Most people are not patient enough to let compounding do its work. They get excited by short-term gains and terrified by short-term losses. They jump in and out of the market, trying to time it perfectly. But this constant activity often disrupts the compounding process and leads to worse results than if they had just done nothing at all. Warren Buffett is a perfect example of this. He is known as one of the greatest investors of all time. But the real secret to his success is not just that he is a good investor. It is that he has been a good investor for an incredibly long time. He started investing as a child. The vast majority of his wealth was accumulated after his 50th birthday. His fortune is not just a result of his investment skill, it is a result of that skill being compounded over a human lifetime. This shows us that the real gains do not come from what you do in a year, but from what you do over decades. Therefore, the best approach for most people is to find a sensible investment strategy and stick with it. It is about patience and consistency. You need to give your money the time it needs to grow. This means accepting that there will be ups and downs along the way. The stock market will have bad years, and your portfolio will sometimes lose value. During these times, the temptation to panic and sell is strong. But the patient investor understands that these downturns are a normal part of the process. They stay the course, continue to invest, and allow the powerful force of compounding to build their wealth over the long run. Every good thing in life has a price, but that price is not always obvious. This is especially true in investing. We all want high returns, but we often forget that those returns do not come for free. The price you have to pay for good long-term returns in the stock market is not paid in dollars and cents, it is paid in emotions. The price is uncertainty, fear, doubt, and regret. You have to be willing to endure the volatility and the periodic downturns. This is the fee you pay for the opportunity to earn returns that are higher than what you would get from a safe savings account. Many people try to avoid paying this price. When the market goes down, they panic and sell their investments. They are trying to get the reward, high returns, without paying the fee, enduring the downturn. But this is like trying to steal from a restaurant. You might get away with it once or twice, but eventually you will get caught. In investing, trying to time the market to avoid the downturns usually results in missing the best days of recovery, which is when most of the long-term gains happen. The fee is unavoidable. The key is to see it for what it is, a normal cost of doing business. Once you accept that volatility and downturns are a fee, not a fine, your mindset changes completely. A fine is something you pay when you do something wrong. A fee is simply the cost of admission. When you see your portfolio go down, instead of thinking, "I made a mistake, I need to get out," you can think, "This is the fee I am paying for great long-term returns." This mental shift helps you stay calm and stick to your plan. You start to see market declines as a normal part of the journey, like the toll you pay on a highway that leads to your destination. This concept applies to more than just investing. Think about saving money. The price of having a high savings rate is living on less than you make. It might mean driving an older car, living in a smaller house, or forgoing some luxuries. The benefit you receive is financial security and freedom. Everything has a price. The trick is to identify the price, decide if you are willing to pay it, and then pay it willingly. Understanding this helps you make more conscious trade-offs. You realize that you cannot have it all, and you learn to focus on what is most important to you and be willing to pay the hidden cost associated with it. Achieving financial well-being is less about complex strategies and more about mastering a few simple, powerful psychological principles. It begins with humility, understanding that your own personal history shapes your view of money, and that luck and risk play an enormous role in outcomes. This humility protects you from overconfidence and helps you build a margin of safety into your financial life. It is not about being the smartest person in the room. It is about being the person who can survive the longest. Survival is the foundation upon which all long-term financial success is built. The next step is to define what enough means to you. Avoid the trap of social comparison and the endless pursuit of more. True wealth is not about having the most money. It is about having control over your time and the freedom to live a life you value. You can achieve this by focusing on what you can control, your savings rate. By consistently spending less than you make, you buy yourself freedom and security, $1 at a time. This is a more reliable path to wealth than chasing high investment returns, and it is available to everyone, regardless of their income. Embrace the power of patience. Allow the magic of compounding to work for you over many decades. This means accepting that the price of great long-term returns is short-term volatility. See market downturns not as a fine for doing something wrong, but as the fee for admission to wealth creation. Stay the course with a sensible, long-term plan, and do not let fear or greed knock you off your path. Remember that getting wealthy and staying wealthy are two different skills. The latter requires discipline, paranoia, and a focus on not losing what you have worked so hard to build. Ultimately, the psychology of money teaches us that how we behave is the most important factor in our financial lives. It is about simple habits practiced consistently over a long period. Save a reasonable portion of your income, be patient, and understand your own emotional triggers. If you can do these things, you will give yourself the best chance of building not just wealth, but a life of financial peace and happiness. The journey is not a race against others, but a personal marathon that you can win by simply understanding yourself a little better.